We know this, the European Court of Justice has ruled this morning that FIFA and UEFA acted illegally in blocking the launch of the European Super League back in 2021. It was a morning we shall never forget when the news of the Super League came along and the big six, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester City, Manchester United and Tottenham all said, yeah, we'll have some of that, but it didn't come about. So it failed in its first guise, but now it looks as if it's coming back because the European Court of Justice has said, and so it should, because FIFA and UEFA didn't act in a legal way first time around when they blocked the launch of the Super League. But now that it is coming back, in what guise? This is the idea of the guise of the return of the Super League that we are actually getting this morning. The exact details of the new format are still unknown, but supposedly it would involve 60 to 80 clubs instead of 20 in multiple divisions, with every team needing to qualify from their domestic competitions. UEFA and FIFA have already launched their new competition with the revamped and expanded Champions League and the Club World Cup. But will clubs be forced to choose between being with UEFA and FIFA and being within the Super League? And Simon, basically, I think that's what it comes down to now. And also, we are well aware there's one hell of a lot of Saudi money floating about now. And will they come into play as well?
Possibly. Because with the greatest respect in the world, where do you think the money was coming from in the first place to some extent to fund the European Super League? The scale and opportunities of football are so huge that, as I've said previously about the broadcasting deals just for the domestic rights of the Premier League, are so under-resourced given the opportunities that are there. I don't know what this format will become. What I don't want is any ideas to be killed in the cradle because we have a governance that suggests that the only way forward is under their direction and the only ideas that are worth considering are theirs. I do not believe that FIFA and UEFA are great organisations, and I do not believe that the status quo should maintain itself as the status quo in perpetuity just because it is the status quo. It should be challenged and looked at, and if a better idea comes along and evolves the sport and is right for the sport full stop, then it should be considered, and it shouldn't be under the jurisdiction of these Swiss enclaves that you never see behind and never understand the workings of and the machinations of, and have far too much jurisdiction over things. And as we've seen in the past, that's not a good way for things to be run. And we've seen it evidence, and I don't believe that these organisations fundamentally change. They are what they are. And I believe that in order to create new things, it's the old expression of, to make omelettes, you've got to break eggs. You've got to be able to look at what's here, where you're trying to get to, but these discussions should be able to be had. And what we've currently got, it's not about this verdict has approved the Super League. It hasn't approved a Super League because it's not its gift to approve a Super League. What it's done is said that UEFA, you don't have the right to stop the conversation.
I get that.
You don't have the right to say to somebody, if we want to create a new opportunity and people then be given a choice, you, on your own, get to say you cannot do that because if you do that, you get jettisoned out of football. And you as a player, you don't get to play for your country anymore if you want to consider that. In no other walk of life would that be considered a way to operate.
I agree, but first time around it got kicked out and the fans railed against it, as I said.
Because the fans were railed up by an hysterical media at the times. Because no one was looking at it. All we had to do was go...
No, because it was foisted upon the fans, whether they liked it or not.
If everyone just...
The Big Six said they were joining it.
It was foisted upon the fans. It was suggested to the fans that 6 clubs were involved in the discussions and signed an agreement for the concept of a European Super League that lacked meritocracy. So all the fans had to say was, no way should our football club be joining a league that doesn't involve qualification. End of the discussion. Because everything else is the same that exists already.
Will the Premier League clubs really have the audacity to join it again?
It depends what's on offer to them.
Right, so they're going to listen.
Of course, so they should do.
And so they should do, and I get that, because you're right. Competition is fair, and competition is good for everybody. But at the end of the day, why do we need this thing? Because what's up with the status quo?
Same ways we needed the Premier League. Same way that we needed, or supposedly needed a European Champions League that came from being a European Cup that was based upon a knockout tournament to a league that went from X amount of teams to now 32 teams. That was then predicated by coefficients. The same way that we needed that. The same way that we needed a lot of things. It's called evolution, and at the centre of it, tragically, whether you like it or you don't, is money. This is the business that we're in. Football is a global business with huge revenue opportunities that everyone wants to attach themselves to around the world from an advertising point of view. Every football club wants to generate more money. Every player wants to get paid more money. Every fan wants to see the best players. Every fan wants to sit in the best stadium. So that all comes at a cost. The cook, the candlestick maker and the baker that own football clubs have gone. Those days are dead. Football is now evolving into a different... Now, whether we like it or we don't, whether we think it should be the working man's game, all of that has changed. You want to try and retain some of the core values, but I, for one, and anybody with a sensible mind, would not look at UEFA and FIFA and say, they're the ones for us. Some people might say, well, it's better the devil you know. And I get that dynamic. But you have to look forward, and they have to have the right to have a discussion, and they have to have a right to put forward an idea. And it also has to have collective responsibility and fairness and equitability, and all of that comes down to how people behave and negotiate.
Would you be saying this if you were still the owner of Crystal Palace,
Of course I bloody should
first
would.
time around weren't invited to the table?
Well, I wouldn't have expected to be.
Would they be invited to this?
But I wouldn't have expected to be because I get the order. I understand people's place on the food chain. I don't like it, but I'm a big boy. I understand it. The reasons why countries around the world are buying our our overseas rights and superseding the domestic rights for the Premier League now is because they want to see Liverpool, Manchester City, Arsenal, Tottenham, and whoever else we think are the big icons of the Premier League, and everyone else gets the benefit of that and makes it a competitive league. But we all know, really, when we boil it down and distill it down to the reality of what it is, there are iconic brands and there are brands that get the benefit as a result of it. And you have to accept to a certain extent where you are and be realistic and then fight for what you think is right for yourself.
So here it is again, the Super League possibly on the horizon, and again it's demonstrating that it doesn't really care about the English football pyramid.
No, that's not what it's doing. That's not what it's
That's
saying.
exactly what it's doing.
No, it's not saying that. It's suggesting...
No, you just said know your place. You've got to know who you are in the food chain.
I am saying...
This is for the rich club.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all.
For the big clubs.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the reasons why there is
you just
so
said
much...
know your place.
No, understand where you are on the food chain. Understand where you are and then make the very best fist of it that you can. Negotiate yourself into the best position because ultimately it's all about negotiation. Everything is about finding the common values in one part, accepting where you are and then getting the best outcomes.
Accepting where you are. So what if you're not high in the food chain?
Well, look, again, it becomes relative to where you are in that food chain.
You eat the scraps, don't you?
What I mean is you don't have competitions that are not based upon meritocracy. You don't have fair distributions into the rest of the league to be able to make sure that there's opportunities for everybody. Because we are seeing teams like Brighton that are able to compete at the top end of the pyramid by the very nature of the fact that they run their football clubs well. You cannot suggest that we're constantly talking about money in football. We're constantly talking about the broadcast deals. This is the next stage. Competitions in football are so lucrative that they are going to come. And why should they come under the governance of one entity? Why should that be something anybody wants? Everybody wants choice in life because what happens with choice gives value and gives value to the consumer. It gives opportunity to the participants. Now it has to come with special protected characteristics. And the great thing about the absolute debacle that they did first time round is because they made such tits of themselves first time round, they're going to have special characteristics put in place to be able to preserve some of the things that they're now looking at to have to do that it's unfathomable that they thought they could get away with first time.
Oliver and Hove is saying, Jim, you cannot let Simon go unchallenged all morning. There was so much more wrong with the Super League first time around, more than just a lack of meritocracy. And there was.
Well, give me an example. I'll tell you what.
It caused panic. It caused absolute panic in those who are mid to bottom of the food chain.
But it didn't.
Because they felt they were going to get left behind.
It caused panic in the media because the media didn't grasp the principles of it.
It didn't cause panic anywhere in the media.
If you look at
it was covered in the media.
Hysterical reaction, wall-to-wall coverage of what it was rather than what it wasn't. And there were things inside of it. You have to accept in life, right? If you're going to start something new, you have core values in that proposition and you have core component parts. The people that were going to sell this league around the world and raise the finances are Real Madrid, are Barcelona, are Liverpool, are Man U, are Man City. And then what you do after that is you make damn sure everyone else gets some of the gravy off the table as well, not the crumbs. And that's what people don't understand is, oh yes, we live in a socialist world, everyone's equal. No, everyone's not equal. That's not how it works.
We remember what happened first time around. In the wake of the Super League fallout, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, City, United, Tottenham agreed to accept fines of about 20 million each and 30-point deductions if they join a similar unsanctioned competition in the future.
They'll change the rules.
So now the situation has changed. The European Court of Justice has ruled this morning that FIFA and UEFA acted illegally in blocking it first time around, and now it's coming back. Or it could well come back, but in a totally different guise. But what is the guise? Could be as many as 60 to 80 clubs involved instead of 20. What does that mean if your club isn't one of them? You're going to get left behind.
You should want to hear what it is, though, shouldn't you?
Simon is saying you should want to hear what it is. But again, you did say it would be back. And it is back.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.